So in this video, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about how sharing more about yourself while feeling uncomfortable at first can actually be one of the best things that you can do to build and maintain professional relationships based on the thousands of people I've worked with over the past 10 years. So I remember when I first started getting into proactively building relationships at conferences and in my own city. I would go to a lot of networking events. And I used to think that the only thing that I could talk about was what I did, right? What was on my LinkedIn profile. And I'd go in, I'd have a quick conversation and exchange business cards, connect on LinkedIn, and well, that was it, right? Because all I could talk about was work and what my professional goals and my professional interests and my skills and their professional interests and how we could help each other professionally. That was exhausting, right? Because I realized I wasn't connecting with people. Again, I didn't really know any better, but that's what I thought was okay to talk about. And I'll never forget that one time I flew into a conference, my flight was delayed. It was a new conference, so I didn't know anyone. And I went to like one of the initial events. Someone came up to me and we started talking. And I mentioned honestly, feeling really exhausted. I just flew in late and don't feel like I really know anyone here. All of a sudden, we had a really great conversation, and I actually still remember that specific conversation, and we're still connected to this day. And I realized that the difference between that and what I was doing before is I was connecting more as a human being. Now, I've worked with thousands of professionals over the past 10 years, and this is one of the things that I've really learned and locked onto. That those who are more comfortable sharing more about themselves, not just who they are professionally and what their professional accolades and their professional experiences and their professional skill sets, but share more about who they are as a human being, they're able to more quickly and more naturally build and maintain relationships that lead to referrals and repeat clients and great opportunities years and years to come. Now, I know it may feel uncomfortable at first, right? We oftentimes think that we have to show up as professionals, right? And there are only some things that we can talk about professionally. There's one challenge with that we just sound like every other professional. Here are my professional accolades, here are my skills, and all of a sudden we sound like everyone else in that room. But what if the next conversation that you're at, you mention a little bit about gardening? Yeah, I do all this professional stuff too, but at home, honestly, I really love to garden, right? And I can't wait to go back there this weekend. I actually remember it was uncomfortable at first, but I encouraged one of my clients to, in their monthly newsletter that again goes out and it's a list of, professional updates and transactions and market updates and all that kind of stuff. Sure. They also put in a picture of their home brewing setup saying, hey, this is my home brewing setup. This is what it looks like right now. This is what I'm brewing. It's 3 people reach out that same day and say, hey, I'm a home brewer too. And they were able to have a great conversation. Now, that's the trick, right? Because the insight and the science behind this is that we don't connect as professionals. We connect as human beings. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to go past, right, that professional ego wall and show who we are as a human being and who they are as humans as well. And from there, that of course allows us to create these hooks, these opportunities to connect on a slightly deeper level. Now remember, one of my guiding principles is that people work with people who they know, like, and trust. Therefore, what we're trying to do is we're trying to create much more of that human connection, right? Yeah, they can know, like, and trust the professional, but knowing, liking, and trusting the person, that is what really excels beyond. I know there are a lot of blockers that may come up. Nobody cares about my gardening / cooking / running. Well, that's true. Probably most people don't, but you can find the people who do. And for those who don't, right, it's unlikely that they're going to judge you, right? Like, oh, that person gardens. No, it's just they have their own interests that they know aren't relevant to everyone else, but that's really cool that you do, right? I've connected with great people who absolutely love sailing, and honestly, I could not care about sailing whatsoever, but it's interesting to learn a little bit more about that person. Another blocker is, well, I'll seem unprofessional or unfocused, right? Well, no, the best leaders are the ones who really bring their entire full selves to it, right? I have a dear friend of mine who, while he runs a very big community, he also has a farm, right? And he talks about how his experiences on the farm have actually helped him when it comes to his business and his relationships. And I think that's a really cool thing, right? You may not realize, but the book that you're reading, right, whether or not it has anything to do with work, there are little bits of nuggets that you pick up. And again, we learn more about that whole person. In fact, I think it actually feels almost unprofessional these days if all you do is work and then go home and watch TV, right? We want to see people who have their full selves, who are taking care of themselves, who have a family or friends or community or interests. What topics are we supposed to talk about, right? And this really comes down to anything that we want to talk about, we can bring up. Now, I know that nowadays there are certain topics that we not only may not feel comfortable talking about personally, but probably shouldn't bring up. So politics and religion are two very easy ones that, at least in our current world, most people aren't comfortable sharing. I also know counterexamples. I also know some people who are very specific and upfront about their political views, and then others who are very focused on their own religious views and religious values. And now, of course, that may cause some people to shy away, but that's okay, right? Because it also brings other people even closer to them. And remember, we are trying to build and maintain relationships with the people that we can, frankly, build and maintain the best relationships with. And if your political views or your own views on spirituality or the market or your interests are really that so important for you, then of course you're going to connect really well with people who have those same views and values as you. So, of course, what if someone judges my interests? Well, again, those who judge your interests and judge things about you, well, they're probably not necessarily the right relationships to be working with over a long period of time, counter to the other people who, frankly, have a much better, tighter view of those and will like and appreciate you more. Even if they don't share those same views or values or interests, they'll at least understand more about you, right? I have no problem, for example, inviting people to events that I host. If the topic may not be relevant for them, that's totally fine, but at least they got an invite. At least I was showing, hey, this is something that I'm interested in. Thought you might be interested in too. If not, no worries. If you want to know how you can get started here, what a crawl, walk, run looks like, well, for starters, just maybe add one little personal detail to your personal update, or the next coffee meeting that you go to, right? Just share one little personal update. When they ask about your weekend plans, don't just share, I don't know, just, doing my normal thing, hang with family. Share one thing that interests you. If you want to go a little bit further, you can start thinking about the obvious things that are interesting to you, right? What are the books that you're reading, the shows that you're watching? In my personal update that I send every quarter, one of the things that people glom onto the most is like, what books is V reading, right? That is a really cool thing. And again, I'm only reading the books that are interesting to me, and I know a lot of them are not interesting to most people, but is at least a great way of connecting with people. So you can also think about the trips that you've taken or the things that are going on right now. The idea here is that we're not trying to push open doors. We're not trying to break open a relationship, but we're opening these doors in a way that people allow us to connect with them at a much deeper level. Because the cool thing about this is human beings tend to reciprocate behavior. So if you share more about yourself, then most likely the person that you are talking to will share more about themselves as well. Cool, right?